Hello students, today we are going to discuss model test paper of science for class 10th which is recently issued by Punjab School Education Board. So let's start with part A. Our first question is Fe2O3 plus 2Al gives Al2O3 plus 2Fe. The above reaction is an example of. Now students, in this reaction we see that when iron oxide reacts with aluminium, then aluminium being highly reactive than iron, it displaces iron from iron oxide and forms aluminium oxide. In this reaction, iron is displaced from iron oxide. So which type of reaction is this? This is a type of displacement reaction. Our next question is, a solution reacts with crushed eggshells to give a gas that turns lime water milky. The solution contains. Now we have to mention the name of the solution which reacts with crushed eggshell to give a gas that turns lime water milky. Then the solution contains HCl. Our next question is, which one of the following type of medicines is used for treating indigestion? Now students, we know that for treating indigestion we use which type of medicines? We use medicines which contain antacid. Our next question is, food cans are coated with tin and not with zinc because. Now students, we know that zinc is more reactive than tin. Therefore, food cans are coated with tin and not with zinc, because if they are coated with zinc then they will spoil our food items. So food cans are coated with tin and not with zinc because zinc is more reactive than tin. Our next question is, butanone is a 4-carbon compound with the functional group. Now students, butanone, now in butanone there are 4 carbon compounds and none is the name derived when it contains functional group called ketone. So when ketone functional group is attached to butane, then it becomes butanone. So the functional group which changes butane to butanone is ketone. So butanone is a 4-carbon compound with the functional group ketone. Our next question is, element X forms a chloride with the formula XCl2 which is solid with a high melting point. X would most likely to be in the same group of the periodic table as. Now students, if X belongs to the group of sodium, then it will form a chloride with formula XCl. If it belongs to magnesium group, it will form a chloride with formula XCl2. If it belongs to the group Al, then its chloride will form the formula XCl3. And if it belongs to group Si, then its chloride will form a formula XCl4. So element X forms a chloride with the formula XCl2 which is solid with high melting point. So X would most likely to be in the same group of the periodic table as. Now we see that X will belong to the same group of the periodic table as Mg, magnesium. So its correct option will be Mg, magnesium. Next question, the kidney in human beings are a part of the system for. Yes students, kidneys in human beings are a part of which system? Kidneys are a part of excretory system. So its correct option is excretion. Our next question is, the autotrophic mode of nutrition requires. We know that autotrophic mode of nutrition requires carbon dioxide and water, chlorophyll and sunlight. So its correct option will be all of the above. Our next question is the gap between two neurons is called. So students, the gap between two neurons is called synapse. An example of homologous organs is, now students, what are homologous organs? Homologous organs are those organs which have same internal structure but their outer functions are different. Our arm and dog's foreleg, our teeth and an elephant's tusk, potato and runners of grass. All of these are the examples of homologous organs. So its correct option is all of the above. Now students, our next question is, humans have two different sex chromosomes, X and Y. Based on Mendeleev's law, a male offspring will inherit which combination of chromosomes? Now students, we know that males contain XY chromosome whereas females contain XX chromosome. Now if the child receives Y chromosome from father and X chromosome from mother, then the child will get chromosomes XY. So that child will be male child. So based on Mendeleev's laws, a male offspring will inherit which combination of chromosomes? Its correct option will be combination of X and Y chromosome from either of its parents. X chromosome from mother and Y chromosome from father. So combination of X and Y chromosomes from either of its parents will lead to male offspring. Our next question is, the image formed by a concave mirror is observed to be virtual, erect, and larger than the object. Where should be the position of the object? So students, we know that concave mirror gives real and inverted image at all other positions, but it gives virtual, erect and larger image than the object only on one position, and that position is between the pole of the mirror and its principal axis. So when object is placed between the pole of the concave mirror and its principal axis, then the image formed will be virtual, erect and larger than the object. Our next question is, which of the following lenses would you prefer to use while reading small letters found in a dictionary? So students, we know that if the focal length of the convex lens is small, then its magnifying power will be more. So in order to read small letters found in dictionary, we would prefer which type of lens? We will prefer a convex lens of focal length 5 centimeter. Next question is, which of the following is not an example of biomass energy source? Yes students, which is biomass? Biomass energy source is that energy source which is obtained from living organisms. So as we know that wood, gobar gas and coal, all these are sources of biomass energy, but the source which is not an example of biomass energy source, that is, it is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is not an example of biomass energy source. Our next question is, most of the sources of energy we use represent stored solar energy. Which of the following is not ultimately derived from the sun's energy? Geothermal energy, wind energy, nuclear energy and biomass. So which of the following is not ultimately derived from sun's energy? That energy is nuclear energy. Our next question is, which of the following are environment friendly practices? Carrying cloth bags to put purchases in while shopping, it is an environmental friendly practice. Switching off unnecessary lights and fans, it is also environment friendly practice. Walking to school, instead of getting your mother to drop you on her scooter. This is also environment friendly practices. So its correct option will be all of the above. Our next question is Tihri Dam is built on which river? So students, Tihri Dam is built on which river? It is built on Ganga river. Now we come to part B of this question paper. Our first question is product in activity shown in figure is dissolved in water. What is the formula and nature of compound so formed by dissolving in water? Now students, we have performed this activity which is burning of magnesium ribbon. So when we burn magnesium ribbon, it burns with white flame and it produces white colored ash. And that white colored ash, when dissolved in water, it turns red litmus paper to blue. Now see, magnesium burns in air to form white powder of magnesium oxide, which when dissolved in water forms a compound magnesium hydroxide, and this magnesium hydroxide turns red litmus to blue. And this is the equation Mg, magnesium, which is solid, and when it burns with oxygen, it produces magnesium oxide, which is white powder. Our next question is why does an aqueous solution of an acid conduct electricity? Hydrogen ions are the carriers of electric current. Therefore, in aqueous solution, yes students, what is aqueous solution? Aqueous solution is a solution prepared in water. Therefore, in aqueous solution of an acid, the acid ionizes into H positive, which conduct electricity. So when acid is dissolved in water, it produces H positive ions which conduct electricity. Our next question is why does micelle formation take place when soap is added to water? Now see, when soap is mixed with water, micelles are formed because the hydrocarbon chains of the soap molecules are hydrophobic. Hydrophobic means they are water repellent. They don't dissolve in water, which are insoluble in water. But the ionic ends of the soap molecules are hydrophilic, that is water attracting, or these ends dissolved in water. And because of this, they are soluble in water. In soap micelles, the uncharred ends of the hydrocarbon chain are on the inner side while the charred ionic ends are on the outer side. Now our next question is why do you think the noble gases are placed in a separate group? Now why noble gases are placed in separate group? From all the elements, noble gases such as helium, neon, argon, krypton, etc. are unreactive and they were discovered much later. Now why these noble gases are unreactive? Because these gases have fully filled outer shells. So they are unreactive and they were discovered much later. Their properties are different from the elements of other groups. Noble gases therefore are placed in separate group which is called zero group. Now our next question is how does chemical coordination take place in animals? Endocrine glands in animals produce special chemicals. These chemicals are hormones used as a means of transporting information in animals. The adrenaline hormone secreted from the adrenal gland is directly secreted into the blood and reaches various parts of the body. Tissues have specific properties that recognize the hormones they need and use them either externally or internally. By coordinating with the organs performing specific functions, those hormones show their specific effect. Now, our next question is, how is the sex of the child determined in human beings? In humans, sex is determined on the basis of special sex chromosomes. Males have XY chromosomes and females have XX chromosomes. It is clear from this that in females, Y chromosome does not exist at all. When offspring is produced by a male and a female, then the female can't produce a male child at any stage because the male child should have XY chromosomes. Now students, you see in this picture, male have XY chromosomes whereas female have XX chromosomes. When X chromosome of female fuses with X chromosome of male, then the offspring will be girl child. When Y chromosome of male fuses with X chromosome of female, then the offspring will be XY, that is offspring will be boy. In fertilization, if the X sex chromosome of a man meets the X sex chromosome of a woman, then it will form XX pair, so the child will be a girl. Now in this diagram we see that when X chromosome of male fuses with X chromosome of female, then the child will be girl. But when the Y sex chromosome of a man mixes with the X sex chromosome of a woman, XY will be formed. This will lead to the birth of a boy. Now, when Y chromosome of male fuses with X chromosome of female, then the child will be boy. The birth of a boy or a girl in any family depends on the chromosome present in sperm of the man because only he has the Y chromosome. Now our next question is, define the pole and principal focus of a concave mirror. Now we have to define what is pole and what is principal focus of a concave mirror. First is pole. What is pole? The midpoint of a spherical mirror is called its pole or vertex. Now what is principal focus? The principal focus of the mirror is a point on the principal axis where parallel rays of light after reflection from the mirror actually meet at a point or appear to diverge. Now our next question is, what is the function of pupil and ciliary muscles in human eye? First we are going to discuss function of pupil. Now what is pupil? It is a small hole in the middle of iris through which light enters and falls on the eye lens. This hole is called pupil and it acts as like a shutter. Next is ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles hold the eye lens in position. The ciliary muscles help to change the focal length of the eye lens by changing its curvature. Our next question is, name and explain rule shown in figure. Now in this figure, which rule is shown? It is shown Maxwell's right hand thumb rule. And now we have to explain this rule also. So what is right hand thumb rule? It determines the direction of magnetic field produced around a straight conductor carrying current. If a current carrying conductor is imagined to be held in right hand, now this is current carrying conductor which is imagined to be held in our right hand. Between the thumb and palm, such that thumb points in the direction of current. Now our thumb is pointing toward the direction of the current. Then the curling fingers of hand. These curling fingers, what these curling fingers show? These curling fingers show direction of magnetic field. Now if current is going downward, then these curling fingers show that magnetic field will be produced from this to this direction, in this direction. So this is Maxwell's right hand thumb rule. If current flows in a conductor in the downward direction, if current flows through the conductor in downward direction, then the direction of magnetic field will be clockwise. It is used to find the direction of force, that is motion of conductor. And now our next question is, what are the disadvantages of fossil fuels? Disadvantages of fossil fuels: they are limited reserve of fossil fuels which would exhaust in a short time. Fossil fuels on burning release toxic gases such as carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and sulfur dioxide, and therefore they cause air pollution. Fossil fuels on burning give out carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, which produce greenhouse effect, as a result of which temperature of the earth is increasing continuously. The released gases on combustion of fossil fuels become cause of acid rain. Our next question is, can any source of energy be pollution free? Why or why not? Now we see that any source of energy cannot be fully pollution free. No source of energy can be completely pollution free. Some sources, while producing energy, cause pollution, and while making some energy sources, pollution may have been caused. As for example, solar cell is considered as pollution free source of energy, but in the process of making this device there is pollution which destroys environment. What changes would you suggest in your home in order to be environment friendly? Now what changes would you suggest in your home in order to be environment friendly? These changes will be: we can stop wastage of electricity by turning off the switch of electric fans and bulbs. We can save water by repairing the leakage water pipe or tap. We should try to follow the path shown by 3 R's. We should not throw recyclable items with the garbage. We should reuse things like envelopes instead of throwing them away. We should not waste food. We should not allow garbage and dirty water to collect around our house. Waste leakage of water should be stopped. Water should be used judiciously. Residential garbage, the waste should be collected and disposed of in the dustbin. Now we come to part C. Our question is, define oxidation. Identify the substances that are oxidized and the substances that are reduced in the following reaction. CuO plus H2 gives Cu plus H2O. Now first we have to define oxidation. So what is oxidation? A chemical reaction in which a substance gains oxygen or loses hydrogen is called oxidation reaction, and the substance is called oxidized substance. Example of oxidation is magnesium plus oxygen. Now before reaction magnesium and oxygen are separate, but after reaction both of these combine to form magnesium oxide. So this is the example of oxidation. Our next example is copper oxide plus hydrogen. Now in this reaction, oxygen is removed from copper and oxygen is attached with hydrogen to form water. In this case, hydrogen, in case of hydrogen there is oxidation, and whereas in case of copper oxide there is reduction. Now in this reaction, CuO plus H2, Cu solid plus H2O liquid. In this case, hydrogen is oxidized because before reaction hydrogen is single, but after reaction hydrogen combines with oxygen to form water. So this is oxidation. And whereas in case of copper oxide, copper combines with oxygen before reaction, but after reaction copper loses oxygen. So in case of copper oxide, this is reduction. In this reaction, copper oxide loses oxygen. Copper oxide loses oxygen and gets reduced to copper, while hydrogen gains oxygen. Hydrogen gains oxygen to form water. Therefore, hydrogen is oxidized and copper oxide is reduced. Our next question is define functional group. What is the IUPAC name of compound shown in figure? What is the name of functional group present in compound? Now this is the compound which is given to us. We have to give its IUPAC name. Now first question is what is functional group? We have to define functional group. The atom or group of atoms which determine the property of an organic compound is called functional group. So functional group is an atom or group of atoms which determine the property of an organic compound. The IUPAC name of the compound given in the figure is propane 2-one. Now propane means 3 carbon atoms, 2-one means ketone, 2 ones means ketone group is attached on second carbon. So we write propane 2-one. The functional group of this compound is ketone group. This is a ketone group. Our next question is how does the electronic configuration of an atom relate to its position in the modern periodic table? The electronic configuration of an atom is related to its position in the modern periodic table in such a way that atoms having the same number of electrons in their outermost shell are placed in the same group. The number of electrons present in the outermost shell indicates the group number of that element, and the outermost shell number indicates the period of that element. When moving from left to right in a period, the number of electrons in the valence shell increases by 1 unit as the atomic number increases by 1 unit. Now our next question is what are the differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration? Name some organisms that use the anaerobic mode of respiration. It is very important question. What is the difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration? So first, aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen, whereas anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. Aerobic respiration. This process takes place in both the cytoplasm and mitochondria of the cell, whereas in anaerobic respiration, this action is completed only in cytoplasm. In aerobic respiration, in this process, there is complete oxidation of glucose, whereas in anaerobic respiration, there is incomplete breakdown of glucose in this process. Aerobic respiration forms carbon dioxide and water, whereas anaerobic respiration forms alcohol and carbon dioxide. Aerobic respiration, 38 ATP molecules are liberated in one molecule of glucose, whereas in anaerobic respiration, 2 ATP molecules are liberated per one molecule of glucose. In aerobic respiration, complete oxidation of one molecule of glucose releases 673 kilocalories of energy, whereas in anaerobic respiration, incomplete oxidation of glucose molecule releases 21 kilocalories of energy. Aerobic respiration. This process can be shown by the following equation: C6H12O6, which is glucose. It reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, water, and 673 kilocalories. Whereas in anaerobic respiration, this process can be shown by the following: glucose, in the absence of oxygen, it forms alcohol, ethyl alcohol plus carbon dioxide plus 21 kilocalories. Anaerobic respiration occurs in some organisms such as yeast. Aerobic respiration commonly found in all organisms, whereas anaerobic respiration occurs only in some plants, in some animals, or in mussels. Some organisms use anaerobic mode of respiration as, for example, yeast, multicellular nereid, and protozoan bacteria, etc. Now, our next question is, draw the structure of neuron and explain its functions. Now, we have to draw the structure of neuron and we also have to explain its functions. Now, what is the structure of neuron? The nerve cell or neuron is the basic unit of communication. It is particularly long. It has a nucleus surrounded by cytoplasm. Many small branches called dendrites emerge from the cell body. One of these branches is longer, it is called axon. So one of the branches of dendrites is long, it is called axon. It takes messages away from the cell. No nerve cell is directly connected to another nerve cell. There is some empty space between them in which there is very close conduction. It is called synapse. So, no nerve cells are directly connected to one another. There is some space between two nerve cells, and that empty space is known as synapse. If we have pain in the foot, then the information about it is received by the dendrites of the sensory nerve cell located in the foot. The nerve cell converts it into electrical signal. This electrical signal travels through the nerve and the synapse and finally reaches the brain. The brain receives the message and responds to it. The motor nerve transmits this response to the muscle of the foot, and the muscles of the foot make the appropriate response. So this is the functioning of neurons. And we have to draw this structure of neuron. So what are the parts of neuron? Neuron has dendrites, one nucleus, this is cell body, and one dendrite is very long, which is known as axon, and these are axon terminals. So this is the structure of neuron. Nerve cell or neurons are of three types. Now we are going to discuss types of neurons. These are of three types. Sensory neurons. These carry the sensation from different parts of the body to the brain. Next are motor neurons. These carry commands from the brain to the muscle. Third are multipolar neurons. These carry out the function of carrying the sensation towards the brain and from the brain to the muscles. Now our next question is, what is myopia? What are the reasons for it? How the defect is corrected? Draw diagram of myopic eye. Now first we are going to discuss what is myopia. A person with myopic eye can see the near objects clearly but cannot see far off objects. The person suffering from myopia or short sightedness has far point nearer than infinity. In a normal eye, the far point is at infinity. The rays coming from distant object at infinity get focused on retina. Now, what are the reasons of defect of this eye? The defect myopia arises due to either the length of eyeball is elongated, that it becomes longer than normal, or the focal length of eye lens is decreased. Due to either or both the cases, the eye is not able to focus the rays from distant objects at retina. Focusing is there at point O in front of retina. Therefore, the image formed on retina is blurred. Now, in this figure, we see myopic eye. In case of myopic eye, the image of the object is formed in front of retina. Therefore, the image of distant object cannot be seen clearly. Now, how we can correct this myopic eye defect? We can correct this myopic eye defect by using concave lens. Yes, now we see how we can correct this myopic eye defect. Correction of myopia. To correct this defect, a concave or a divergent lens of appropriate focal length is placed in front of the eye so that the parallel rays coming from infinity appear after refraction through the lens to come from the far point when eye is unaccommodated. These parallel rays from a distant object shall be brought to focus upon the retina. Obviously, the focal length of such a lens is equal to the distance of the far point from the eye. So, this myopic eye defect can be corrected by using concave lens. This lens helps to focus the image of the distant object on the retina. So, in this way, we can correct the myopic defect of eye. Our next question is, what is the principle of electric motor? Draw and explain it. In which direction will rod AB shown in figure will move? Now students, in this question we have to first explain the principle of electric motor, then we have to draw and explain its parts, and another question is, in which direction will rod AB shown in figure will move? That when we pass electric current from this rod, then in which direction will rod AB will move when it is placed in magnetic field of a magnet. So let's first discuss principle of electric motor. Now, electric motor principle. When a current carrying coil is placed in a uniform magnetic field, it experiences a torque which rotates the coil. So this is the principle of electric motor, that when a current carrying coil is placed in a uniform magnetic field, it experiences a torque which rotates the coil. Now construction. Electric motor has the following parts. Armature coil. ABCD is a rectangular coil called armature made of copper having number of turns. Now ABCD is a rectangular coil called armature which is made up of copper having number of turns. It wound around soft iron bar. Now this coil is wound around a soft iron bar. This coil can rotate freely about its axis. This coil can rotate freely about its axis. Next parts are split rings. The ends of the coil are connected to split rings S1 and S2. These ends of the coil are connected to split rings S1 and S2. Next part is horseshoe shaped magnet. This is horseshoe shaped magnet. The coil is placed between the poles of a strong horseshoe shaped magnet. This coil is placed in strong horseshoe shaped magnet. Next are carbon brushes. These B1 and B2, these are two carbon brushes which keep pressing the split rings, which keep on pressing the split rings. These are carbon brushes B1 and B2. So what is their work? They keep pressing the split rings S1 and S2. Now working of electric motor. A direct current from a battery is passed through armature. Now direct current is passed by battery through armature. ABC armature. The current flows in the coil along ABCD as shown in figure. Now we see that direction of current is in this way. Now current flows from D to C, C to B, B to A. The limb AB of the coil experiences downward. Now limb AB, because direction of current is in this way from B to A, this limb AB of the coil experiences downward force, and CD of the coil experiences upward force in accordance with Fleming's left hand rule. These two equal and opposite forces constitute a couple tending to rotate the coil in clockwise direction. So when force this CD part experiences upward force and B to A part this part experiences downward force, then this force rotates the coil in clockwise direction. After half the rotation, brushes B1 has contact with S2 and brushes B2 with S1. The direction of the current gets reversed. The current now flows along DCBA instead of along ABCD. Limb DC experiences downward and BA experiences upward force in accordance with Fleming's left hand rule. The process repeats itself and motion of armature becomes continuous after some time. Now what is the function of split rings? They help in reversing the direction of current in the coil after every half rotation. The rod AB as shown in the figure diagram will move in the direction perpendicular to its length and magnetic field, that is towards the left inside the magnet. Now in this figure, when current is passed through this rod AB, then this rod AB will move inside the magnet. Our next question is, give any two ways in which non-biodegradable substances would affect the environment. The decomposition of non-biodegradable substances is not possible. They are prepared in industries from different type of chemical substances and later mix in the form of microscopic particles in the soil, and they cause damage to the environment. They accumulate by biomagnification in the food chain and cause various kinds of harm to humans. Now we come to part D of this question paper. Our next question is, differentiate between metals and non-metals on the basis of their chemical properties. Now difference between metals and non-metals on the basis of their chemical properties. Metals form basic oxides whereas non-metals form acidic and neutral oxides. Metals displace hydrogen from dilute acids. Non-metals don't react with dilute acids, thus they don't displace hydrogen. Metals form electrovalent chlorides with chlorine. These ionic chlorides undergo electrolysis, but these are non-volatile. Whereas non-metals form covalent compounds with chlorine, which undergoes electrolysis, but these are volatile. Metals are reducing agents, whereas non-metals are oxidizing agents except for carbon. Metals combine with hydrogen to form their hydrides, whereas non-metals react with hydrogen to form hydrides, which are covalent compounds. Now our next question is, why is sodium kept immersed in kerosene oil? We know that sodium is a highly reactive metal which react with oxygen present in air to form sodium oxide. It reacts with water to form sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gas is liberated. Hydrogen gas is highly inflammable and it catches fire instantly. That is why sodium is kept immersed in kerosene oil to prevent its contact with air. Our next question is, what are amphoteric oxides? Give two examples of amphoteric oxides. Now, what are amphoteric oxides? Those metal oxides which show both basic and acidic character are called amphoteric oxides. Example, aluminium oxide and zinc oxide are amphoteric oxides. Example, aluminium oxide when react with HCl, it forms aluminium chloride and water. Aluminium oxide when react with sodium hydroxide, it forms sodium aluminate and water. Zinc oxide when react with HCl gives zinc chloride plus water, and zinc oxide when react with sodium hydroxide, it forms sodium zincate and water. Our next question is, how does binary fission differ from multiple fission? By fission, a cell divides into two smaller and almost equal parts. The division takes place from a fixed plane. But in multiple fission, a single celled organism divides into many daughter cells simultaneously. Cyst is not formed in binary fission, but cyst is formed in multiple fission. There is binary fission in amoeba and paramecium. Multiple fragmentation occurs in the Kala Azar pathogen, Leishmania, and the malarial parasite Plasmodium. Our next question is, what are the advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction is advantageous over asexual reproduction due to the following reasons. Sexual reproduction takes place by fertilization of male gamete and female gamete obtained from male and female, as these two they are derived from different animals. So the offspring have the diversity of characteristics. New pairs of chromosomes are formed by sexual reproduction. This gives new dimensions to the direction of evolution. This increases the chances of developing the best qualities in the living beings. Our next question is, draw a labeled diagram of the longitudinal section of a flower. So students, this is the longitudinal section of a flower and we have to label its parts. These are sepals, these petals, filament, anther. Anther and filament are known as stamen. This is stigma part, this is style and ovary. All these three parts are together known as pistil, or these are female parts of a flower. Whereas anthers and filament, these are male reproductive part of flower. Our next question is, what are the changes seen in girls at the time of puberty? So changes visible in girls at the time of puberty. There is a growth of tuft of hair in some new parts of the body such as armpits and in the genital area between the thighs. Fine hairs come on the arms and legs. The skin becomes oily. Sometimes individuals get pimples. The size of the breasts start increasing. The color of the skin of the breast around the nipples becomes dark brown. Menstruation begins. Eggs begin to mature in the ovary. The sound becomes melodious. There is an attraction towards the opposite sex. Our next question is, on what factor does the resistance of a conductor depend? Now, resistance of conductor depends on the following factors. First is length of the conductor. Resistance of a conductor is directly proportional to the length of the conductor. It means that if the length of the conductor is increased, then resistance will also be increased. So resistance of a conductor is directly proportional to the length of the conductor. R is directly proportional to L. Another factor is area of cross section of conductor. Resistance of conductor is inversely proportional to the area of cross section A of the conductor. That is, R is inversely proportional to area. Another factor is nature of material of conductor. Resistance of conductor depends on the nature of the material of the conductor. On combining all these factors, we get R is directly proportional to L by A, or R is equal to rho into L by A, where rho is a constant of proportionality. Our next question is, what is the highest and the lowest total resistance that can be secured by combination of four coils of resistance: 4 ohm, 8 ohm, 12 ohm and 24 ohm? So its answer is, to get maximum highest total resistance, if all the four resistances are connected in series arrangement, then the total resistance will be maximum. Let Rs be the total resistance, then Rs is equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3 plus R4. Now we have to add all these resistances, that is 4 ohm plus 8 ohm plus 12 ohm plus 24 ohm. Then maximum resistance obtained will be 48 ohm. To get lowest total resistance, if all the four resistances are combined in parallel arrangement, then the total resistance will be lowest. Let Rp be the total resistance, then 1 by Rp is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3 plus 1 by R4. So we get lowest total resistance, that is Rp will be 2 ohm. Our next question is, define and explain Ohm's law. Calculate the resistance of conductor from graph. Now this is the graph. Current is along x-axis and potential difference is drawn along y-axis. Now first we have to define Ohm's law. What is Ohm's law? Ohm's law, it states that the current passing through a conductor is directly proportional to the potential difference across its ends, provided the temperature and other physical conditions remain unchanged. That is, I is directly proportional to V, or V is directly proportional to I, or we can write it as V is equal to Ri, where R is a constant of proportionality called resistance. Now what is resistance? It is the property of a conductor oppose the flow of current. Resistance depends upon the nature of the conductor, its temperature and its dimensions. R is equal to V by I, or I will be is equal to V by R. Now experimental verification of Ohm's law. How we can experimentally verify Ohm's law? Connect an ammeter, battery, key and rheostat as shown in figure A. Now in this figure we connect ammeter, battery and rheostat and voltmeter as shown in the figure. Now put plug in the key K, read the values of potential difference across a resistor R with the help of voltmeter. We can read the value of potential difference from voltmeter, which is attached parallel to resistor R, and the current flowing through the resistor with the ammeter, and through ammeter we can measure the current. Note the readings. Vary the current in the circuit by sliding contact of rheostat and go on noting reading in voltmeter and ammeter. Take the ratio potential difference V and corresponding value of current I each time. The ratio would be same, which proves Ohm's law. Now after completing this circuit, we start taking reading. We take a reading of potential difference from voltmeter and reading of current from ammeter. When we take first reading, then after first reading we change current from rheostat. Then again we take reading of ammeter and voltmeter. In this way we will take 2 to 3 readings, and then we will plot a graph from potential difference and current. We will draw a graph between potential difference and current. When we plot a graph between potential difference and current on graph paper, it will be straight line as shown in graph in figure B. It also verifies that V is proportional to I. Now in this figure, when we plot a graph between current and potential difference, we see that we obtain a straight line. Now this straight line verifies that V is directly proportional to I. Now calculation for resistance. Resistance of the resistor is equal to slope of graph, that is R is equal to delta V divided by delta I. From the given data, V1 is equal to 0.4 volt and V2 is equal to 1.6 volt. Corresponding electric currents, I1 is equal to 0.1 ampere, I2 is equal to 0.4 ampere. Therefore, delta V is equal to V2 minus V1 is equal to 1.6 minus 0.4 is equal to 1.2 volt. And delta I is equal to I2 minus I1 is equal to 0.4 minus 0.1 ampere. So delta I will be 0.3 ampere. Therefore, resistance R is equal to delta V divided by delta I. So by putting values of delta V, we have 1.2 volt, and value of delta I we have 0.3 ampere. So therefore resistance will be 4 ohm. So students, these values, that is V1 equal to 0.4, V2 equal to 1.6 volt. So these values are taken when we perform an experiment of Ohm's law. So by performing this experiment, we see that resistance comes out to be 4 ohms. So students, this is model test paper of science which was recently issued by Punjab School Education Board, Mohali.